So, you want to lower the cost of your Facebook ads. In today's video, I'm going to show you what I did to get the cost per result of my Facebook ads from this to that. Let's get started. Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back to the Socialography YouTube channel. My name is Angela, and today I wanted to talk about one of my favorite Facebook ad hacks, tips, tricks, tools, whatever you want to call it. Something that I always use to lower the cost of my Facebook ads. And you probably already saw it in the title of this video. It's A/B testing. Okay, so if you don't know what A/B testing actually is, or you've never heard of it before, I'll go ahead and give you a little bit of a breakdown on what it is and how it works. And then what I'm going to do is actually walk you through all of the A/B tests that I did to lower the cost per result on my Facebook ads by over 90%. And yes, I said A/B tests as in more than one. So A/B testing, also known as split testing, is the process of comparing two different versions of something, version A and version B, to see which is more effective. And A/B testing is a pretty common marketing tactic or tool that's used by marketers to determine things like which landing page is more effective, which email subject line gets more opens, which ad creative gets more clicks, and so on. So anything that you would like to determine, you use two different variations of the same thing to determine which one works better. And when you're A/B testing, it's really important that the two variables that you're testing are the only differences between the two versions. So for instance, if you're trying to determine if an ad with a red button gets more clicks than an ad with a blue button, then you would have two identical ads, and the only difference between version A would be that it had a red button and version B would have a blue button. And you would run those ads simultaneously with the same budget and put them in the same places, and then the only difference would be the red button versus the blue button. And then depending on the results of that ad, you'd be able to determine which one was more effective at getting clicks. So let's talk about how you can apply this tactic to Facebook ads specifically. And I'm sure you've got some wheels turning and some ideas going on up there in your head. And if not, that's okay. I'm just gonna go ahead and give you all of my ideas. But when it comes to Facebook ads, there are almost endless amounts of possibilities of A/B tests that you can run throughout the lifetime of your campaign. And this is something that I like to do a couple weeks after my campaigns start. I like to get a little bit of data under my belt so that I can refer to it before I make decisions on what it is that I'd like to A/B test. But once you've got that data under your belt, A/B testing is a really great way to determine exactly what works for your audience and what's going to get you that optimum result at the lowest cost possible. So, some of my favorite things to A/B test when I'm running Facebook ads are a landing page or a website. I like to A/B test audience targeting. I also A/B test audience type, which is different from audience targeting, which we'll get into a little bit later. I also like to A/B test ad placement, which is where the ad actually shows up. And I also like to A/B test ad creative, like the images that I use, and ad copy, like the headline or the intro text of my ad. Sometimes I will A/B test those. And you can also A/B test a budget, which I have done before, but it's not something that you need to do pretty often because usually spending more is always better. So you don't really need an A/B test to tell you that. But I just wanted to throw that out there because I've done it before. So those are the main categories of things that you can A/B test. That's not a full complete list of everything that you can test, but those are some of the most common categories. Now, what I want to do is dive a little bit deeper and talk about the actual variables that you can test within those categories. In order to do this, I'm just going to go ahead and walk you through all of the 5 A/B tests that I ran on my Facebook ad campaign to get my cost per lead down over 90%. Okay, so the first A/B test that I ran was on my landing page. and I ended up making 2 different versions of my landing page. And I had everything else in the campaign exactly the same, and the only difference being that when someone clicked on version A of the ad, they went to one landing page, and when someone clicked on version B of the ad, they went to a different landing page. Now, the differences between those landing pages was pretty drastic. They were completely different landing pages, and one of them was a super long landing page that you had to scroll for a while. It had multiple sections, it had a bunch of different information, it had multiple calls to action and opportunities for people to click on a button and fill out a form. And then version B was much shorter. It was literally just one screen. There was nowhere to scroll. It was a simple bulleted list of items describing what it is that I was advertising in the ad, and then one call to action that you click, and then a form popped up, and that's where you entered your information in order to get what it was that I was advertising in the ad. So 2 very different landing pages, and I wanted to test to see which one got more conversions. So which one do you think got more conversions? Which one would you guess? Version A, the super long landing page, or version B, the super short one? If you said version A, you're wrong. It was version B in a landslide. So I ended up running the test for about 4 days, which is the recommended amount of time from Facebook, but you can run an A/B test for much longer if you'd like to, or even shorter, as long as it's at least for 24 hours. But I ran this test for 4 days, and very quickly I was able to tell that version B, the very short and concise one call to action landing page, was the winner. Also, side note, I was able to create 2 different landing pages really easily because I use a landing page builder called Lead Pages, which allows me to use a template to build landing pages, which I did on the version A. And then all I had to do to create version B, as soon as the idea popped into my head, I was able to go to version A, duplicate it, delete all of the sections that I didn't need on the landing page, and just keep that one section that I ended up using for version B. So it was a super easy process. I didn't have to go through, getting a new URL and building a whole new web page from scratch. It's super easy to do with a tool like Lead Pages. So if this is something that you can see yourself testing in the future, I would suggest that you look into using something like Lead Pages to build landing pages for your Facebook ads. I will leave a link to Lead Pages down below in the description box. Okay, A/B test number 2. So the next A/B test that I ran was on audience targeting. And to be even more specific, the variable that I tested within audience targeting was the age range of my audience. So because I already had some data under my belt from my campaign, it had been running for several weeks, and then it went through the first A/B test, I was able to start seeing some patterns. And I started to notice that the age range from about 51 up to 65 plus, I was paying a little bit more per lead in that age range than I was in the 30 to 50 age range. So I wanted to test to see that if I removed the 51 and over age range from my audience, if my overall cost per lead would decrease. So I ran version A with the full range of 30 to 65 plus, and then version B was just 30 to 50. And once again, I ran that A/B test for the recommended 4-day time period. Everything else remained the same. And because I determined that version B of the landing page was better and more cost effective, I had both versions A and B running with that landing page. So now the only difference between the 2 were the age ranges. So after running that A/B test for 4 days, which one do you think was the winner, meaning it had a lower cost per lead? If you guessed the 30 to 50 audience, you were correct. That one won and had the lower cost per lead by the end of the A/B test. Okay, so the third A/B test that I ran was on a very tiny detail, also on audience targeting, but it's a very tiny little thing that you might overlook if you're not super familiar with setting up audiences on Facebook. But when you create an audience, there is a feature called detailed expansion, And when you create an audience from scratch, it's automatically checked on. And for various reasons, I sometimes like to turn this off. So I would uncheck that box. So the next thing that I wanted to do, once I determined that version B of the landing page was better and the 30 to 50 audience was better, I ended up running 2 different versions of my audience, one with detailed expansion on and one with detailed expansion off. After running this A/B test, again for 4 days, detailed expansion on was the winner. All right, so the next A/B test that I ran was another audience targeting test. Sorry, you're probably tired of hearing about audiences, but audiences are key. They're so important for the success of your campaign. So this is why I usually run through a few tests on just my audience targeting before I kind of settle on the prime audience. And spoiler alert, the 5th test is also on audiences, but that one's on audience type rather than audience targeting. So stay tuned for that one. Okay, so the 4th A/B test that I ran was on detailed targeting versus general targeting. And the difference between the two when you're creating audiences in Facebook is that the general audience usually has all of the interest categories lumped together in one section. But if you want to narrow your audience targeting, which also shrinks your audience size, so be aware of that. If you want to narrow your audience targeting, then you're basically, when you're setting up your audience, after you've entered a couple of interest categories, you would then click the button that says narrow audience. And what this will do is it will open another search bar where once again you can enter even more interests or demographics by which to target your audience. But instead of saying to Facebook, in our general audience, we're saying to Facebook, you can target anyone who has any one of these criteria. But when you've narrowed your audience, you've now given Facebook an and statement. And you're saying you can target anyone who meets this criteria and this criteria. So they have to have both of these things, both of these interests, both of these demographics, whatever it is that you've entered, they have to have both of those things in order for you to serve them my ad. Now, what's interesting about this A/B test is that the general audience with the less narrowed targeting ended up being the winner. But what I want you to keep in mind here is that just because you're getting a less expensive cost per lead or cost per result on your campaign does not mean that it's a better quality cost per result. So if you're able to run an A/B test on something like narrow targeting versus general targeting, and you see that the general targeting audience gets a lower cost per lead, but it's not bringing in the same quality of lead as the more narrowed audience, then you have to make a judgment call between which one is actually more valuable to you. Do you want to spend a little bit less per lead but then get a lower quality, or someone who's less qualified, not that the person is lower quality, just that they're less qualified for what it is that you're advertising? Or do you want to pay a little bit more for someone who's more qualified for what it is that you're advertising? So this is something that for me, I was able to move forward with the general audience because I still felt like I was getting quality leads. But keep that in mind if this is something that you're going to A/B test in the future for your ads. You want to make sure that you're not just, removing all qualifications in order to get the cheapest lead. You still need to make sure that you're holding on to that quality lead as well. Okay. And the final A/B test that I ran was on audience type. And this one came after I had reached over 100 conversions on my campaign, because what I ended up doing was creating a lookalike audience based on those conversions. And the reason I wanted to wait until I had at least 100 was so that Facebook had enough data to create a really valuable lookalike audience. And creating a lookalike audience with Facebook basically means that you're saying to Facebook, hey, this audience here of people who either converted on your campaign or maybe they visited your website or whatever your criteria is, I want you to go out and find a whole bunch of other people that are very similar to these people. So sometimes if you can get enough conversions or you can get enough data from your campaign, it can be really valuable to then take that data and let Facebook go find a bunch of other people who are very similar to that audience. So I ended up creating a lookalike audience. I ran the lookalike audience versus the general targeting audience in an A/B test. And guess which one came out on top? Actually, I'm not sure because I ended the test before it finished, but I didn't need it to finish because the lookalike audience did far better than the general targeting audience did, and I was able to bring my cost per lead way, way, way down, over 90% from where I first started the campaign before I ever started A/B testing. But I was very, very happy with the results of all 5 A/B tests, and now my campaign is pretty much running on autopilot and bringing in quite a few leads each and every day at a much lower price than where I started. So I would suggest that if you're currently running Facebook ads and the cost per lead is just a little too high for comfort right now and you want to figure out how to bring that down, that you give A/B testing a serious try, because it is totally worth it to have that data and to understand who your audience is and how best to reach them. All right, so that's it for today's video. I hope this was helpful for you. If it was, please be sure to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe before you leave for more marketing videos like this one. If you have any questions about A/B testing or Facebook ads in general, please feel free to leave them in the comment section down below. I'll be more than happy to try and help you out any way that I can. And if you want more information on my course, Creating Ads That Convert, I'll leave a link to that in the description box as well. And I hope to see you guys in my next video. Bye!